Well, I got the great task of building the green economy. I'm not an engineer, I'm an economist, so these are, of course, all my ideas. Whether they work or not, well, we'll see. I think this conference is occurring at a really important time, which is that we're at a critical crossroads with the green economy in North America. Will the green economy foster a new wave of innovation, growth, and employment? Or will it remain just one small niche within an overall brown economy? That's the path we have in front of us. And it comes down to some critical choices we have to make in the coming years and decades with respect to policies. There's 5 key sectors that make up the green economy today in North America. First sector is energy from renewable resources. Trying to do that, okay. Energy efficiency, gotta go this way. Sorry, I'm pointing at you guys, and it should be this way. Energy efficiency, pollution abatement and materials recycling, natural resource conservation and ecological restoration, and environmental compliance and education. Now, in recent years, the progress in these areas has been pretty good. In the United States, as of 2011, about 3.4 million jobs were created in these 5 sectors, which consists of about 3% of U.S. employment. If you take the last 3 sectors, which comprise the environmental industry, that would be pollution abatement, resource conservation and restoration, and also education, you will see that since the year 2000, a roughly 5% growth each year has occurred in these industries. And right now it is about 2 million people and it's generated about 3% of US GDP. That's a sizable amount. Progress in Canada has also been pretty good. In 2013, there's been over 730,000 environmental professionals, around 4% of the workforce. These environmental jobs have grown tenfold since 1993 and nearly tripled over the past decade. In contrast, conventional employment in Canada grew only 13% in the last decade. So again, the green sectors seem to be growing, and they seem to be growing at a fast rate compared to normal jobs and growth. But there's some worrying signs, and recent reviews have picked up on this. This is a quote from one review of the U.S. green sectors, and it said that while the overall outlook is good, there is a mixed bag of trends, predictions, and problems that will directly impact sustainability, renewable energy, green building, and clean tech in 2014. And the obstacles are things like outdated utility business models, inadequate transmission infrastructure, decreasing energy and resource prices, and ad hoc and inconsistent policies. Similar problems are occurring in Canada. The green sectors face pretty much the same challenges, in particular problems associated with low energy and resource prices, and of course a mixed policy climate. One thing that has been picked up by Sustainable Prosperity, in particular in their 2012 report on the green economy in Canada, is that the clean tech industry in Canada is particularly underfunded by both venture capital in the private sector and public R&D financing. In my opinion, what really is the main challenge and obstacle to the green economy in North America is what I call the policy void. Now, we have to understand that much of the progress we're seeing today in the green economy stems from the green stimulus that happened during the Great Recession. Now, of course, the green economy started growing, those sectors that I pointed out started growing well before the green stimulus. But the green stimulus did something along the lines of stimulating, as it was supposed to do, some of the areas, particularly energy efficiency. But since the Great Recession, we've had no consistent policy strategy in North America to deal with the green economy. And because of this lack of policy follow-up, the green stimulus in North America was essentially a short-term boost to green sectors. And what we have now is a policy void. And what concerns me most about this policy void is that we are not dealing, we're leaving untouched, three major market disincentives to the green economy. Those are environmentally harmful subsidies, the absence of market-based incentives, and the lack of public investment to support private green R&D. Now, there's a variety of environmentally harmful subsidies across our economy today in agriculture, water, transport, energy, and natural resources. I want to focus on fossil fuel subsidies because we have some reasonable data. In North America, billions of dollars are spent annually on fossil fuel subsidies in Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And they have this triple whammy effect on our economy. First, as with most subsidies, there's economic inefficiencies in production and consumption. Secondly, they make fossil fuels artificially cheap, especially with respect to the competing green sectors in energy. And thirdly, there are environmental and health damages associated with the subsidies and with the overuse that they entail. As you can see in the right-hand column, when you add to the subsidies the environmental, social, and health costs, the overall costs to society are even larger. These are statistics from the International Monetary Fund. You increase the overall cost by tens, if not hundreds of billions in the United States' case. This suggests that, of course, we're inefficiently pricing fossil fuels, and that the role of market-based taxes and incentives could do something to reduce environmental and health damages, encourage welfare gains, and, of course, revenues, which is important. And thirdly, reduce the inefficient pricing that drives a wedge between the competitiveness of the green economy and, of course, the brown economy. Meanwhile, our policy towards the green sector is to do the same. There's this growing use of environmentally motivated subsidies in the green sector. And the motivation for these environmentally motivated subsidies is to counter the price advantage that harmful subsidies and inefficient pricings give to the brown economy. And secondly, to promote something that we want, which is green sector expansion and employment. Every green sector now has subsidies in it. And it's become a compelling and almost ritual case that if you want to promote green sector growth, you use subsidies. The problem with subsidies is that we're repeating the same mistake that we've done with the brown economy. And in fact, I would argue, in the long run, it may actually deter green economic development. One, we have a problem of economic inefficiencies in production and consumption, now in the green sector. Lack of competitiveness is also going to be a problem if we keep using these subsidies, and that can lead to overuse. And in some cases, we may have examples of environmental damages coming out of the green sectors, perversely. This table, which if, hopefully, yeah, I think you guys can see this. If not, you can refer to the Big Ideas paper. Shows a range of some of the subsidies. These aren't all the subsidies that are occurring. These are my co-author, Anil Markandya, and I were able to identify some of the environmentally motivated subsidies, and you can see they're pretty pervasive, and they're going in all sorts of directions. Now, some of these may be relatively benign. Others may actually be a good thing, particularly in the short run, but others, alarm bells should start to ring, that we're going in the wrong directions. As I say, two wrongs don't make a right. Because of the existence of environmentally harmful subsidies, using environmentally motivated subsidies means that we're going in the wrong direction with the green economy as a policy. Ironically, there is a place where we ought to be putting some subsidies, or at least some public support, and that's in the area of private green R&D. The problem here is something that economists know very well. Innovation is what we call a non-rival good. That means that if you're a private investor and you put your money into innovation, and there are substantial spillovers, meaning that the innovation that you come up with and the technology, processes, and products spill over across your competitors, other industries, and so forth, it's extremely hard for you to capture all the returns from that innovation. You might get some boost to your own production, but you're not capturing the overall benefit that you ought to get from that innovation. So what do you do as a private investor? You underinvest. You don't put so much money into innovation, or as much that ought to be done to generate the social-wide benefit. And if every private investor acts this way, what you end up with is underinvestment in R&D across one of the most innovative sectors. And that's, of course, I think, what's happening in the green sectors of our economy today, particularly the most advanced tech ones, is that we're underinvesting, ironically. We often hear about how green tech and green industry is the way to go, but I think we're actually underinvesting for the overall benefits that it could generate to the economy. What type of policies we need is what's often called technology push policies. Research and development subsidies, this is where, if we want to put subsidies in, that's where they should go. Public investments that complement the private green R&D, protecting intellectual property, and other initiatives that can generate the type of private investment we want to see. And the thing that's very important here is that these types of policies, these technology push policies, complement market-based incentives. The efficient pricing, or at least a correction of market and policy failures in pricing, must go hand in hand with these technology push policies that go together. And a very interesting study was done about 10 years ago by Larry Goulder at Stanford that showed this, that public policies for reducing carbon dependency have to come from both sides. Using what he calls direct emissions policies, what I'm calling market-based incentives, are important, and they're necessary to get the pricing right and to provide the market incentives. But on their own, they're not sufficient. You have to have the technology push policies at the same time to overcome the underfunding of private investment that goes on. You cannot have just the technology push policies without the market-based incentives, and you can't have the market-based incentives without the technology push policies. I mean, you can have the two on their own, but each one on their own, but they won't be together is what you need to have the most efficient and best reduction in carbon dependency. So just to wrap up the last part of my introduction here to this conference, I think there's 3 steps we need to fill this policy void if we really want to create or build a green economy towards the future. Step 1 is phase out environmentally harmful subsidies, such as fossil fuel subsidies. However, we may also have to look within the green sector and start thinking about rationalizing, in some cases, phasing out those environmentally motivated subsidies that we know are either not helpful or possibly even hindering the development of the green sector. Case step 2 is that we need to expand and use more effectively a wide range of market-based incentives to move our economy, the entire economy, towards more efficient pricing. And the examples are taxes, charges, and payments for environmental services, tradable permit schemes for pollution and resource use, and even voluntary mechanisms where possible. Step 3 is we must allocate the revenues raised and generated from steps 1 and 2. If we remove fossil fuel subsidies, we should save some billions of dollars, as I showed. If we have sufficient pricing through some mechanisms, we'll probably generate some revenues as well. Well, let's allocate those revenues to establish something like a Green Economy Innovation and Investment Fund. I love acronyms, so I just made this up. I don't care what you call it, by this. So the purpose of the GEIIF would be to provide that public support for private sector green R&D that I think is crucially missing. And that includes public infrastructure and investments necessary for green growth. We need, for example, to integrate renewables into electricity transmission. We need green growth policies for urban areas, which hopefully we'll hear more about later in this conference. And we need to develop mass transit systems. These are just some of the type of large-scale public investments that we know are necessary. And I think that this policy strategy has to be integrated. One step, 2 steps is not enough. We need all 3. And the way I see it, and the reason I've called it step 1, step 2, step 3, is it's a process. Step 1 is tackle the subsidies. Step 2 is, which can overlap with step 1, is to move towards more efficient pricing through market-based incentives. And then as you can see with the little dollar signs, the money raised can help us establish this green economy innovation investment fund to support the R&D and other investments that we need for the private sector. As my final remarks, I think the fundamental questions I started with still remain the key policy question that I hope we get resolved in this conference. Do we want green sectors to remain a niche or be a fulcrum for innovation and growth? That's a fundamental policy question. Do we want, I think, also to tackle this? Do we want a highly subsidized economy or a green one? I'm very worried that we're basically moving towards a highly subsidized economy, which will end up with small green sectors buried within a brown economy. I don't want to see that. I would like to see, instead, the green economy become a fulcrum for innovation and growth. The 3-step strategy that I outlined aims to enhance that potential of the green sectors to lead the entire economy onto a green growth path. But we need to think big, which is why I think this conference is important, to set up ideas, big ideas for doing this. I've suggested my own. There are others that are going to suggest other policies. And also I want to make it clear, there's been some talk about removing environmentally harmful subsidies. I think that's important, but it's only one step. All 3 policy steps that I outlined are essential to an integrated strategy. And I think it's important to think in those big strategic terms. I want to end on a slightly, I think I'm trying to be positive, but I'm going to end on even a more positive note, which surprised me. A week ago, I found out that in my state, which is the state of Wyoming, one of the most fossil fuel intensive producing states in the regions in the world, we're #1 coal producer in the United States, #3 natural gas producer, and #5 oil producer. So it's the heart of the brown economy, if you like, because it pumps out all the fossil fuels that makes the U.S. economy work. The governor of Wyoming is Matt Mead, who is a Republican, not surprising. It's probably the reddest state in the union. Matt Mead said something very interesting the other week. He said, I don't believe in climate change, but the markets do. So we need to think in Wyoming about a green economy and to think about renewable energy and other forms of energy production. I think that was actually quite a profound statement. And I believe that that's how we should be thinking, is that we have an opportunity here. The markets do care. He's right. The markets do care about the green economy. At the moment, they care about it as niche sectors within the brown economy. As I've been pointing out this morning, I think we've got an opportunity, if we take it in the next few years, to turn this into a policy strategy for a green economy, which will actually make it more of a source of innovation, growth, and employment, and then the markets will really care about the green economy. Thank you very much.